Imagine a train, packed to the brim, rushing through a dusty Indian countryside in the searing summer of 1947. Its passengers, men, women, and children, carry their entire lives in sacks and bundles, faces etched with exhaustion, fear, and loss. But this train is silent. Too silent, because no one on board is alive. What caused this heart-wrenching scene? How did the freedom of one of the world's oldest civilizations turn into its most violent upheaval? The story of the Partition of India is one of the most harrowing chapters in modern history, marked by an unprecedented scale of human suffering. To truly understand the chaos that erupted in 1947, we must go back to the roots of the British Empire's grip on the Indian subcontinent. For over 2 centuries, the British had ruled India, exploiting its resources while enforcing a divide-and-rule strategy to maintain control over a land of diverse cultures, religions, and languages. Religious identities, once fluid and coexisting, began hardening under colonial policies. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and others had lived together for centuries, sharing traditions and lives. However, the British used census data and local divisions to fuel sectarian tensions, often favoring one community over another in politics or economic opportunities. As nationalism grew in the early 20th century, fueled by leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Subhas Chandra Bose, so did calls for self-governance. Yet nationalist aspirations soon collided with communal identities, creating a dangerous cocktail of unity and division. The demand for a separate Muslim state gained momentum under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the All India Muslim League. Jinnah, once a staunch advocate of Hindu-Muslim unity, began to feel that Muslims, as a minority, would be politically marginalized in a Hindu-majority independent India. Thus, the demand for Pakistan an independent homeland for Muslims took shape. Meanwhile, the Indian National Congress, led by Nehru and Gandhi, envisioned a unified, secular India. By the time the British decided to leave India after World War II, their empire was stretched thin, and the subcontinent had become a hotbed of communal violence. Negotiations between the Congress, the Muslim League, and the British failed to reconcile their visions for the future. As violence spread, the British hastily announced their withdrawal, handing over the task of deciding borders to a British lawyer, Cyril Radcliffe, who had never been to India before. Radcliffe was given 5 weeks to divide a subcontinent of 400 million people into 2 nations, India and Pakistan. His maps would cut through provinces, villages, rivers, and even individual homes, determining whether millions of people would wake up as citizens of India or Pakistan. It was a monumental task with catastrophic consequences. When the borders were announced on August 17, 1947, 2 days after independence, chaos erupted. Punjab and Bengal, 2 provinces with mixed Hindu, Muslim, and Sikh populations, were divided. Families were torn apart, livelihoods destroyed, and entire villages displaced. Trains carried refugees in both directions, but many became trains of death, attacked by mobs who slaughtered passengers of the opposing religion. Over 15 million people were forced to leave their homes, embarking on dangerous journeys to cross the new borders. Muslims fled to Pakistan, while Hindus and Sikhs moved to India. Along the way, they faced unimaginable horrors. Massacres, rapes, and looting became common as law and order broke down. Communities that had coexisted for centuries turned against one another in a frenzy of fear and hatred. In the midst of this chaos, personal tragedies multiplied. Women became the targets of violence. Tens of thousands were abducted, raped, or killed to preserve honor. Children were orphaned, and families were shattered forever. Cities like Lahore, Delhi, and Amritsar became epicenters of violence, their streets stained with blood. Refugee camps sprang up across both nations, but conditions were abysmal. Hunger, disease, and despair claimed countless lives. The political leaders who had fought for freedom were now grappling with the unintended consequences of their decisions. Gandhi, devastated by the violence, undertook fasts to promote peace and even moved into Muslim neighborhoods to protect minorities. But his vision of a united India had already been shattered. The repercussions of partition were felt for decades. India and Pakistan entered into a bitter rivalry, fighting multiple wars over disputed territories like Kashmir. Families who had been displaced passed down stories of loss and longing to future generations, their trauma becoming a collective scar on both nations. The cultural fabric of the subcontinent, once interwoven with shared traditions, was irreparably torn. And yet, amidst the darkness, stories of humanity shone through. Neighbors risked their lives to save one another. Strangers provided shelter to the displaced. These acts of kindness remind us of the resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. Today, the story of partition serves as a somber reminder of the cost of division and the dangers of communal hatred. The scars may never fully heal, but they also stand as a testament to the resilience of those who survived and rebuilt their lives. What does the story of partition teach us about unity and division? Could we, as a global community, learn from the mistakes of the past and ensure such tragedies are never repeated? Share your thoughts in the comments below.